Hi. I'm here. It's me. Chris. Chris Monroe. When Cheryl Ladd joined the cast of Charlie's Angels in 1977, something strange and uncomfortable happened behind the scenes. From the very beginning, she could feel it. Kate Jackson refused to pose for photos with her. Farrah Fawcett came back to the set one day and hugged everyone warmly, but when she reached Cheryl, she stopped and gave her only a cold, stiff handshake. Producers noticed the tension and were forced to rewrite entire scenes just to keep the original Angels away from Cheryl as much as possible. Fan mail started arriving, but instead of praise, much of it was filled with anger and hate. The situation became so bad that some crew members quietly warned Cheryl about how intense the backlash was. The real reason the cast disliked her was not simple jealousy. It went much deeper. It was rooted in feelings of betrayal. Cheryl Ladd was born Cheryl Jean Stoppelmoor on July 12, 1951, in Huron, South Dakota. She grew up in a small, modest home where money was always tight. Her parents worked long hours just to make ends meet. Her mother worked as a waitress, and her father was a railroad engineer. Cheryl shared a bedroom with her siblings and often wore clothes that had already been worn by others in the family. Their television was black and white and sat in the corner of the living room, flickering as they watched shows together. Even with limited money, the house was full of warmth. Her parents believed strongly in discipline, effort, and responsibility, but they also believed in their daughter. They allowed her to turn the living room into a tiny stage where she would perform for neighbors. She made little costumes out of her mother's old dresses and sang and danced proudly. Those moments planted something deep inside her. They gave her resilience and a hunger to reach for something more, qualities that stayed with her throughout her life. By the time she was 4 years old, Cheryl was already copying the stars she saw on television. She especially loved Shirley Temple and practiced her moves right in front of the couch. Over time, her playful performances turned into small shows for friends and neighbors. Whenever she had free time, she practiced singing and dancing. By the age of 12, she was already dreaming of a future in entertainment. She sang constantly, danced whenever she could, and imagined herself far away from Huron. Those quiet evenings in her small town helped shape her confidence in her voice, pushing her to dream bigger than anyone around her expected. At 12, she formed a band with some high school friends and called it the Music Shop. They played folk rock songs, often covering artists like Joan Baez, at fairs and small local events. Each performance earned them about $5, which felt like a fortune to a teenager in South Dakota in the late 1960s. Her parents worried about her future because show business was unpredictable, but Cheryl was sure of what she wanted. The band traveled around the Midwest, playing in tiny venues where audiences sat on folding chairs and clapped politely. In 1970, they felt brave enough to move to Los Angeles together. Their hopes were high, but only days after arriving, 2 band members were seriously injured in a car accident. The dream ended suddenly. The band broke up. Cheryl made a decision that would change her life forever. She stayed in Los Angeles. Even before that, she had already taken a huge risk. In 1968, at just 16 years old, Cheryl dropped out of Huron High School and moved to Los Angeles with only $200 she had saved from babysitting. The move from the Midwest to Hollywood was overwhelming. She lived in cheap apartments and took any job she could find. There were long periods of loneliness and many moments when she questioned her choices. Still, she kept going. She found work as a backup singer, appeared in small commercials, and landed tiny roles on television. Each job paid just enough to survive a little longer. Those years were incredibly hard, but they also made her stronger and more determined. In 1969, she landed what felt like her first big break as a dancer on The Mike Douglas Show. She thought her life was finally changing, but after only 2 weeks, she was fired. The producers said she was too wholesome for the show's new, flashier image. She was dismissed without warning. After that, she slept on couches and stayed in spare rooms offered by people she barely knew. She felt lost, but she refused to quit. That refusal would prove to be one of the most important choices she ever made. In 1970, when she was just 19, Cheryl secretly eloped with David Ladd in a small chapel in Las Vegas. They married quietly because her parents strongly disapproved of the relationship. By the time they held a public wedding in 1973, problems had already started. Cheryl wanted to focus on her music career, while David wanted a more traditional Hollywood lifestyle. Their dreams did not match. Arguments became more frequent, and the marriage slowly fell apart. Cheryl later admitted that she hoped marrying David would help her career, but reality did not match her expectations. They divorced in 1980. Still chasing her dream of becoming a singer, Cheryl released her first single in 1971 under the name Sherry Moore. The song was called I'm Going to Lock My Heart. It sold around 500 copies and quickly disappeared. She had hoped for at least a small response, but instead, there was silence. To survive, she worked as a waitress at Denny's. The failure hurt deeply and forced her to face the truth that music might not open the door she had hoped for. That disappointment pushed her toward a new path, one that would eventually lead her into acting. In 1973, she went through one of the most painful experiences of her life. She suffered an early miscarriage. Years later, she spoke openly about it and described it as devastating. The loss happened while her marriage was already falling apart. She felt alone and overwhelmed. Acting became a way for her to escape the grief. It gave her something to focus on when everything else felt heavy and uncertain. That tragedy influenced many of her future decisions, including her choice to seriously pursue acting. By 1974, she landed her first recurring television role on the Ken Berry Wow Show, where she played a cheerful secretary. The cast included future stars like Steve Martin and Terry Garr. Sadly, the show lasted only one season. When it ended, Cheryl was left with $10,000 in debt. Auditions, rent, acting classes, and lessons had all added up. Once again, she found herself starting over. She kept going because giving up was not an option. One small opportunity had come earlier, though. Between 1970 and 1971, Cheryl provided the singing voice for Melody, the blonde drummer in the animated series Josie and the Pussycats. She got the job by cold calling the studio herself. Each episode paid $100. It was not much, but it opened doors. That work helped her land more voice acting roles and commercial jobs. However, it also caused Hollywood to label her as just a sweet, cute voice. She had to work hard to prove she could do more than that. In 1976, Cheryl finally ended her troubled marriage. Her divorce from David Ladd became public, and court records confirmed they had no children together. Cheryl told reporters that she wanted to start fresh and build her own life. Her honesty caught attention because few actresses spoke so openly at the time. Magazines like People covered her story and linked her decision to the growing independence of women in Hollywood. For Cheryl, the divorce was not just an ending. It was a restart she had needed for years. That same year, she landed her first major television opportunity when she joined Ben Vereen on his variety show. The show aired on ABC and featured her singing duets with him. She earned $500 a week, which finally gave her some financial relief. Unfortunately, the show lasted only 5 episodes due to low ratings. Even so, it mattered. It put her in front of a national audience and helped people notice her. In 1977, her career took a controversial turn. Cheryl posed for a low-budget nude art book that was promoted as fine art. Hollywood did not see it that way. Casting directors began viewing her as too risky or edgy for family-friendly roles. Cheryl later called it a naive mistake that followed her for years. Many actresses at the time faced similar situations. They needed money, and choices made out of desperation often carried long-lasting consequences. You took a risk, and sometimes that risk followed you longer than you ever expected. In 1977, Cheryl made a guest appearance on Happy Days as a roller skating car op. She shared a fun, playful scene with Henry Winkler, and the audience loved it. Almost overnight, she became one of the most talked about guest stars on television. But success brought a new challenge. Casting offers started pouring in, and most of them were for the same type of role, the silly, clueless blonde. Cheryl turned many of them down because she did not want to be trapped in one image. That decision was important. It showed she was thinking long-term and building a real career, not just grabbing quick attention. Later that year, her agent suggested she change her stage name from Sherry Moore to Cheryl Ladd. He believed the new name sounded stronger and would help her stand out. Cheryl agreed. Not long after, she began auditioning for bigger projects, including the pilot for Switch and several other major roles. Everything seemed to line up at just the right time. Within months, she was cast as Chris Monroe on Charlie's Angels. That role changed her life. It boosted her career, rebuilt her confidence, and finally gave her the fame she had dreamed about since childhood, back when she performed in her family's living room wearing dresses made from her mother's old fabric. In 1977, Cheryl was working on an Irish Spring soap commercial when producer Aaron Spelling noticed her relaxed smile and natural charm between takes. He watched her quietly for a moment and felt she had something special. Even though she had never done action roles before, he invited her to audition for Charlie's Angels. Cheryl knew she was stepping into the space Farrah Fawcett had left behind, and that was a huge responsibility. She did not talk about it much, but she trained privately with a stunt coordinator for 2 weeks to prepare herself. When she walked into the audition room, she felt nervous but determined. Aaron Spelling liked what he saw. He liked her energy, her movement, and the way she spoke. The decision came quickly. She signed a 4-year contract to play Chris Monroe, the younger sister character meant to ease fans through the change. The risk paid off. Ratings stayed strong, and Cheryl Ladd became a household name. Many people later said she helped save the show at a moment when it could have failed. That audition included a moment no one forgot. During her screen test, Cheryl tripped over a prop gun and accidentally fired a blank. The loud noise echoed through the room, and everyone froze. It could have ended her chances right there. Instead, Aaron Spelling laughed. He said moments like that felt real and human, exactly what he wanted. He offered her the role on the spot. Cheryl later said she had never felt so embarrassed in her life, but she was also deeply grateful that one clumsy moment turned into something that felt like destiny. The screen test footage was never released, but the story lived on for years behind the scenes. When Cheryl officially joined the show in Season 2 with the episode Angels in Paradise on September 14, 1977, everything felt huge. The episode was filmed in Hawaii and had the biggest budget the show had seen so far. Her bikini scene attracted 27 million viewers that night, and it became clear that Charlie's Angels had found new energy. Some crew members warned her that Farrah Fawcett's loyal fans might turn against her. Cheryl stayed focused on her work, and the ratings remained strong. The show stayed in the top 5 during the 1977 to 1978 season, and her arrival felt like the moment the series was reborn. Her first major paycheck came soon after. She earned $10,000 per episode in 1977. That money changed her life. She bought her first home in the San Fernando Valley and felt like she was finally living the dream she once thought was impossible. Even with her success, she did not forget where she came from. She donated 10% of that first paycheck to a South Dakota charity that helped children from backgrounds like hers. That single act became a habit she continued for years, and her charity work grew steadily over time. In 1978, Farrah Fawcett unexpectedly returned to the set. She greeted Jacqueline Smith with a warm hug, but when she reached Cheryl, she gave her only a short, stiff handshake. The moment spoke volumes. People later said Farrah felt jealous because Cheryl was receiving more fan mail. To avoid further tension, producers rewrote scenes to keep them apart until things settled down. It was uncomfortable, but Cheryl stayed professional. Over time, the tension eased, and fans embraced both women. The show continued with Cheryl firmly at its center. A year later, something unexpected happened again. In a Season 3 episode titled Angel on the Line, Cheryl casually said the phrase sister power. It came out naturally, but it stuck. By April 1979, newspapers and fan letters were repeating it everywhere. By June, her popularity score had jumped to 45%, making her the third most recognized angel after Jacqueline Smith and Kate Jackson. That rise led to endorsement deals, including a one-year Revlon contract worth $150,000. Her image grew beyond the show itself. Young girls saw her as strong, smart, and relatable, someone they could look up to. Despite her action hero image, Cheryl did not perform every dangerous stunt herself. During rehearsals for the 1979 episode Angels on Ice, she badly sprained her ankle. Doctors and her team insisted she avoid risky scenes. A stunt double named Sis Rundle performed the helicopter jump that aired on February 7, 1979. The scene looked so real that most viewers never suspected it was not Cheryl. Years later, fans were surprised to learn the truth because the Angels were marketed as fearless and physically tough. Her fame reached beyond television. In 1978, she recorded her first album during breaks from filming. It was released in September, and the single Think It Over climbed to number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100 by November. Critics dismissed the album as light and tied to her TV fame, but it found strong success in Japan. Cheryl became a pop favorite there, and the album was reissued in 1993. Japanese radio stations continued playing Think It Over throughout the 1980s, keeping the song alive far from Hollywood. In 1980, a new angel joined the cast. Tanya Roberts came on board, and Cheryl tried to help her adjust. She shared advice, makeup tips, and small comforts that made life on set easier. As the scripts began focusing more on the younger angels, tension slowly grew. Cheryl felt her role becoming smaller. She later described that time as bittersweet. She wanted to support the new cast member, but she could also feel Hollywood's obsession with youth closing in. By 1979, her salary had doubled to $20,000 per episode. She bought a home in the Hollywood Hills and built financial security. But success brought new problems. In 1981, the IRS audited her for income connected to fan club merchandise sold between 1979 and 1980. They claimed she owed back taxes on $120,000, creating a stressful chapter just as her career seemed strongest. She settled the tax issue by paying $48,000 and completely changed how her money was managed after that. It was a hard lesson, but one she never forgot. Her final episode of Charlie's Angels aired on June 24, 1981. The episode, Angel on a Roll, attracted around 22 million viewers and ended her time on the show in a powerful way. She performed a solo motorcycle chase without using a stunt double, and audiences loved it. Critics praised her performance, and many fans believed she deserved an Emmy nomination. That nomination never came, and people were left wondering why her work had been ignored. Leaving Charlie's Angels brought new problems. Hollywood tried to lock her into one type of role. She received dozens of offers to play silly blonde characters, but she turned every single one down. Instead, she chose a serious dramatic role as Grace Kelly in a 1983 television movie. That choice changed how people saw her. Her performance earned her a Golden Globe nomination and proved she could handle deep, emotional material. The same year, she appeared in her first major film, Now and Forever, alongside Robert Conrad. Soon after, rumors spread about a supposed affair between them. The gossip hit hard. Cheryl held a tearful press conference to deny the rumors and protect her family and reputation. Eventually the story faded, but it left a lasting mark on her life. She continued working and released her second music album, Take a Chance, in 1983. The single The Best of My Love reached number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100, her highest solo chart position. However, her concert tour fell apart when she developed laryngitis. Promoters sued her for $50,000, claiming losses from canceled shows. It was another setback in a career filled with unexpected turns. In 1984, she tried something completely different. She released a workout video called Feel the Burn. It sold 500,000 copies and surprised everyone. She spoke openly about stretch marks and body changes after giving birth to her daughter Jordan in 1981. She even showed photos. Women responded strongly to her honesty. At a time when celebrities hid their flaws, Cheryl chose to be real. That honesty made her feel closer to her fans than ever before. As the 1980s continued, Cheryl seemed to have a stable career and a strong marriage. Then in 1985, everything began to crack. Rumors of infidelity flooded tabloids and threatened her marriage to Brian Russell. They had married after her divorce in 1981, and many people saw them as a steady couple. The gossip was relentless. They turned to therapy, but even that became public news. Reporters treated their private struggles like entertainment. Nothing was ever proven, but the rumors followed them for years. Cheryl stayed composed in public, even though the pressure was overwhelming. In 1989, she chased a long-held dream and stepped onto Broadway in Anastasia. She hoped it would open a new chapter in her career. Instead, the show closed after just 23 preview performances. Critics said she appeared stiff and wooden. The criticism hurt deeply, especially because she had invested $100,000 of her own money into the production. When it failed, she had to return to television to recover. The experience taught her how quickly opportunities could disappear. In 1990, her life changed again when she was diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma on her cheek. Years under hot studio lights during Charlie's Angels had taken their toll. She underwent surgery and was left with a scar that reminded her to take sun protection seriously. She partnered with the American Cancer Society and recorded a public service announcement that aired on more than 200 stations. Many people went to doctors because of her message. Her openness helped reduce fear around skin cancer and encouraged early treatment. By 1992, she appeared in Poison Ivy and made a bold choice. She gained 15 pounds for the role because she wanted to stay true to the character. Some fans complained, but critics noticed the honesty in her performance. The project became a cult favorite and helped her land more thriller roles. She stopped trying to fit her old image and allowed a new one to take shape. A year later, she worked behind the scenes on Dead Before Dawn. Her narration mattered deeply to her, and she pushed for script changes that gave the female lead more control over her story. Those changes delayed the release by almost a year and nearly broke the small studio behind it. Cheryl stood by her decision. When the film aired in 1994, audiences noticed the difference. It became an early example of stronger female storytelling on television. In 1998, she took on one of her most demanding roles in One of My Own, portraying a rape survivor. She brought real pain to the performance and later revealed that she had been stalked and threatened during the 1980s. That personal history shaped her work. She won a Prism Award for her honest portrayal of trauma and mental health. The award mattered deeply because it reflected experiences she truly understood. Her family life also faced challenges. In 1996, her daughter Jordan began modeling at 15. Cheryl supported her at first, but when agents pushed for inappropriate photo shoots, she fought back. The conflict became public. In the end, Cheryl removed her daughter from the industry until she finished college. She chose protection over fame and never regretted it. In 2004, she unintentionally went viral after guest starring on Hope and Faith. A silly improvised dance spread widely, boosting online searches of her name past 1 million. Sitcom offers followed quickly, but she turned them down to focus on her family. Around the same time, she contributed to the Hey Arnold movie, using her own childhood memories of being teased for her accent to deliver powerful lines about self-worth. Schools later used those scenes to teach anti-bullying lessons, and studies showed more children standing up for others after watching the film. That same year also brought danger. She appeared in a political advertisement supporting John Kerry and criticizing President Bush's environmental policies. After it aired, she received more than 300 death threats. She canceled appearances and stepped away from public life for 6 months. Authorities later identified several individuals involved. Despite the fear, she said she never regretted standing by her beliefs. In 2009, she poured personal grief into the movie Christmas Hope after losing a beloved pet. Her emotional performance earned her an Emmy nomination in 2010. Viewers connected deeply, and thousands donated to animal adoption groups after watching the film. In 2011, she released a gospel-inspired song, The Voice of a Nation, raising $75,000 for Hurricane Katrina victims. Although critics questioned the timing due to a recent home purchase, the song was praised for its impact and played at recovery events. In 2013, she appeared on Unforgettable and pushed for a storyline involving domestic abuse survival. After the episode aired, calls to support hotlines increased dramatically. Her choice helped many people seek help. The tension from her Charlie's Angels years never fully faded. She later spoke about difficult moments with Kate Jackson and being excluded from major tributes. Though the pain lingered, she chose forgiveness for her own peace. By 2025, her net worth reached around $10 million. Through residuals, books, and her memoir, she built a secure life. She mentored young actresses and hosted workshops to help them navigate the industry. When invited to revisit old conflicts, she chose boundaries instead. She said her peace mattered more than reopening old wounds.